My name is Clara Jensen, 34 years old. The cousin's birthday party looked like a magazine spread, balloons arching across the entry in color-coordinated perfection, a dessert table glistening with tiers of frosted cupcakes, and matching t-shirts for the twins that declared in bold letters, "Born to Shine." Even the air smelled rehearsed, heavy with vanilla and artificial sparkle. My daughter's hand tightened in mine as we crossed the threshold. She was 7, hair pulled back with the sparkly headband she'd picked out herself that morning, the one she said made her feel like a galaxy. She had practiced her happy birthday greeting in the car, whispering it twice, voice wobbling like she was rehearsing a speech that mattered. When she let go of my hand to give the cousins their cards, I saw how she held her breath until they smiled. I drifted toward the food table with my husband, offering polite smiles, spooning pasta salad onto a flimsy plate. My sister, Emma, floated from group to group, glowing in her role as hostess. My mother gave me her brittle half-smile, the one that meant, "Don't start anything." My father focused on carving ham, as if the knife required surgical precision, nodding once in my direction before bending back to the meat. The air thickened the way it always did at family gatherings, a mix of small talk layered over a current of judgment. I remembered the rhythm too well, how silence was safer than honesty. My husband's shoulder brushed mine. He didn't need to say it. We'll get through this. Then came the gift bags. Each child's name glittered in cut-out letters, the bags brimming with treasures, bubble wands, stuffed animals, water bottles etched with initials. Laughter bounced across the room as tissue paper tore and trinkets clinked. Cameras flashed. Parents clapped. Then Emma handed one to my daughter. It was plain white, sagging, a sticky note slapped crooked across the front. "Try harder next year," in my sister's handwriting. My daughter blinked as though she'd misread it. She reached inside, pulled out a broken crayon, a used eraser, and a single peppermint wrapped so loosely it looked pilfered from someone's purse. Her lips pressed together, trembling, as if she were trying to swallow the lump in her throat. The laughter started. Emma's laugh, high and sharp, slicing through the room. "She's been acting up lately," she said with a shrug, performing casual cruelty. Interrupting, crying over tiny things. "Just a little wake-up call." My mother chuckled. "Honestly, it's good for her. You coddle her too much." Even my father's grunt of amusement felt like a stamp of approval. The other kids laughed without understanding, following the lead. My daughter forced a smile, the kind children give when they're trying not to cry. Her small hand slid toward mine under the table, seeking anchor. My husband crouched beside her, voice steady. "You don't need this." He slipped the bag from her hands. "Let's go get some real cake." We stood. I didn't say a word. Neither did he. We walked out of that house like we were leaving a burning building, heat at our backs, smoke in our throats. No one tried to stop us. At home, she curled on the couch with the handmade birthday cards she'd drawn for her cousins, clutching them like they were shields. "Was it because I didn't say thank you fast enough?" she whispered. "No, sweetheart," I stroked her hair. "It was because some people forget how to be kind." Her eyes softened, but she clung tighter to the cards. Later, she fell asleep beneath the fleece throw her dad had given her last Christmas, the one stitched with the words, "You are safe, you are strong, you are loved." I sat at the kitchen table with my husband, a silence between us that carried more weight than words. Finally, he spoke. I paused the payments. I looked up. The rent supplement, the grocery card, the electric bill float, all of it. I stopped. His jaw was set, but his eyes were tired. I nodded. Then it's time. From the drawer, I pulled the folder I'd been building quietly for years. Venmo receipts, property tax I'd covered for our parents, screenshots of Emma asking me to watch her kids during her solo reset trip, copies of utility bills paid from my account, a printout of the email where she begged me to co-sign a car loan. And now, the sticky note. "Try harder next year." I slid it into a clear sleeve on top. My husband didn't speak. He didn't have to. His silence was permission, not in the sense of control, but solidarity. At 4:07 a.m., I emailed the landlord. "I will no longer be responsible for the duplex rent supplement. Please update records accordingly." His reply came within 20 minutes. "Understood. Noted." At 4:49 a.m., my husband drafted the letter to the car loan company. Our signatures were on the documents, our credit tied to the risk. Emma had defaulted before. This time, we wouldn't shield her. By dawn, the printer hummed with evidence. Screenshots, transcripts, receipts. We labeled and annotated, then bound the folder with a crimson ribbon I found in the junk drawer. A leftover from one of Emma's kids' birthday gifts. Unplanned, but it felt poetic. At 7:30, we drove across town in silence. The streets were empty, washed pale by morning light. My husband placed this folder on Emma's front step, pressed the doorbell, and walked away. We didn't linger, didn't wait for the explosion. We were already halfway down the block when it came. The scream, raw, unrestrained, a sound dragged from the depths of her throat. It rattled the quiet cul-de-sac, sent a dog barking, made blinds twitch. I didn't turn around, because I'd heard that scream before, not out loud, but in the undercurrent of my childhood. The sound of power shifting, the sound of truth landing where it was least welcome. And this time, it wasn't me who carried the weight of it. By the time we pulled into our driveway, my phone had already started vibrating in angry bursts, notifications stacked one after another, Emma's name flashing in all caps, then my mother's, then unknown. The silence inside the car felt almost wholly against the chaos trying to bleed in. I didn't answer, neither did my husband. We sat in the parked car for a long moment, staring at the still sleeping neighborhood. Finally, he said, "They'll come harder now." I know. The first wave hit before noon. Emma's text roared in capital letters. "What the hell is wrong with you? You think this is funny?" A voicemail followed, her voice breaking into static rage. By afternoon, the tone shifted. "We are family. You can't do this to us." Then, as if changing costumes mid-performance, came the begging. "Please, you can't just stop paying like this over a joke. You're ruining everything." When I didn't respond, the threats arrived. "If you don't fix this, you'll regret it. You think you're smart, but you're nothing without us." My mother's voice messages bled with rehearsed disappointment. "You've taken this too far, Clara. Families fight, but this is betrayal. What do you want from us?" Her words curled around me like smoke. I knew that tone too well. It wasn't apology, it was containment. That evening, I opened my laptop, attached the digital copy of the folder, and sent it to every aunt, uncle, and cousin. Subject line, in case you ever wondered why we stopped showing up. No explanations, no commentary, just the truth. By morning, responses trickled in. I had no idea. I wish I'd spoken up sooner. A cousin wrote simply, "Good for you." One message cut sharper than the rest. My father's younger sister replied, "Clara, this isn't new. I saw it when you were little. I regret staying quiet. Emma isn't the only one who should be ashamed." I stared at her words until they blurred. Maybe it was the exhaustion, but that night my mind began rewinding, splicing together old reels of memory. The year I came home with a perfect attendance certificate, proud of pushing through colds and stomach aches. Mom barely looked at it before saying, "Emma got Student of the Month. That's a bigger deal." The birthday when Emma and I shared a single gift, rollerblades in her size. I smiled for the photo while my toes barely touched the wheels. The school play where I had the lead. They didn't come. Emma had a volleyball practice. Not a game, just practice. "We'll catch the next one," they promised. They never did. The phrases echoed in my head. "You're too dramatic, too shy, too opinionated, too much, not enough." No bruises, no shouting, just the constant hum of being measured and found lacking. My husband found me staring at old report cards I dug out of a box. "Don't let them take up space in your head," he murmured. "They already built the house," I whispered back. He slid the papers aside and took my hands. "Then we build another one, for her, for us." 2 days later, the consequences became real. The landlord's letter landed first. Emma had 30 days to pay the full rent balance or face eviction proceedings. The car loan company followed with a notice. Missed payments triggered a credit review, and repossession was on the table. My mother showed up on my doorstep with my father in tow. They didn't ask permission to enter, just stood there as though the house were still theirs to command. Dad spoke first, his voice heavy with irritation. "This has gone too far. You're tearing the family apart." "No," I answered, calm as glass. "This is called consequences." Mom's eyes watered, but no tears fell. "We just want to talk." I didn't move from the threshold. My daughter's face peered nervously from behind the curtain. I angled my body to block her view. "You've made your choice," I said, "and so have I." I closed the door. I thought maybe, silence would follow. But silence never lasts in families built on control. 3 days later, my daughter came home from school with a pastel envelope tucked into her backpack. Hearts lined the stationery. The handwriting was Emma's. If you ever feel sad or confused, remember Auntie Emma loves you. You can call me anytime, even if your mom says no. My daughter handed it to me, confusion clouding her eyes. Did I do something wrong? The fury rose in my throat so fast I tasted iron. No, sweetheart, you did nothing wrong. That afternoon, I was on the phone with the school, voice clipped, precise. Who authorized this? The administrator hesitated. A friend of your sister's said she was dropping something off for her niece. No ID was required. My hands shook. That ends now. By evening, I had filed a formal no-contact order with the school and district, and my lawyer had drafted a cease and desist addressed to both Emma and my parents. The document was clinical, but every sentence felt like a boundary welded in steel. That night, when the house was finally quiet, I watched my daughter sleep. Her breathing was even, soft. Her small hand rested over the galaxy headband on her nightstand, as if guarding it. I sat in the dark and whispered a promise into the stillness. This cycle ends here. My phone buzzed again, a private number. I knew exactly whose voice would be waiting if I pressed accept. I didn't answer, but I felt the pull of it, like an old chain rattling against a locked door. The smear campaign started quietly, like a leak no one bothers to fix because the drip seems harmless. An anonymous account tagged me on social media, calling me ungrateful. Blurry childhood photos appeared with captions like, "Some people forget who raised them." Another post read, "Just remember, kids grow up. One day she'll know what you did." I didn't respond. Instead, I collected screenshots, URLs, timestamps. Everything went into the growing evidence file I'd already started handing over to my lawyer. It didn't stop online. One afternoon, my cousin Melanie forwarded me a group chat where Emma had written, "Clara's raising her daughter to be just like her, oversensitive and exhausting. Someone needs to teach them both a lesson." I stared at the words until my vision blurred. The cruelty wasn't even whispered anymore. It was a performance, one she thought others would cheer. But Melanie didn't cheer. She added her own reply beneath the screenshot. "Emma, this isn't funny. It's disturbing." That single sentence warmed something in me that had been frozen for years. The next escalation came through a family Zoom call, hastily organized by my parents. I didn't attend, but relatives later described it in detail. At first, the usual script: Mom lamenting that families drift apart, Dad grumbling about ingratitude, Emma painting herself as the wounded martyr, claiming I was trying to destroy her life over a misunderstanding at a child's party. But then Uncle Jim asked, "Is it true Clara covered your property taxes last year?" Silence. An aunt followed. "And the car loan? Whose name is actually on that?" The air apparently turned thick. My mother tried to pivot, but someone else jumped in. "And why wasn't Clara invited to Grandpa's birthday? She's his granddaughter, too." That's when people started leaving the call, one by one, little icons disappearing. By the end, half the screen was blank squares. Meanwhile, the pressure outside the digital world mounted. The landlord's final notice gave Emma 30 days. The car loan company flagged the account for repossession review. My husband showed me the notification on his phone, his thumb hovering. "She's spiraling," he said. "She always spirals," I answered. "Only difference is, this time, we're not her net." The letter came next. Blue ink, monogrammed paper. My mother's handwriting looped across the page. "Family is messy. We made mistakes, but at the end of the day, we are all we have. Don't punish everyone forever for one misunderstanding. Your daughter will regret this distance. So will you." I read it 3 times. Each time, the words rang more hollow. I didn't tear it up. Instead, I slid it into a frame and hung it beside the sticky note that had started everything. "Try harder next year." 2 relics side by side, one blunt in its cruelty, the other polished in its manipulation, both telling the same truth. While the adults scrambled, my daughter began to heal. She made 2 new friends in art class, gentle, curious girls who didn't laugh when she covered her ears at loud noises or needed breaks during group projects. She started sleeping through the night, her breathing loose and unguarded instead of clenched. One morning she said, "Mom, my heart doesn't feel like it's buzzing anymore." I hugged her so tightly she squeaked. Still, the smear campaign pressed on. Anonymous DMs, fake accounts, whispers, drifting through extended family threads. Each time I added to the file. Each time my lawyer responded with the same steady calm. "We have enough to show a pattern. Don't engage." One night, as I was tucking my daughter in, she asked, "Why is Aunt Emma so mad at us?" I paused, because she doesn't like when people tell her no. Did we do something wrong? No, sweetheart, we did something right. She nodded, satisfied with the answer, and drifted off. I sat by her door long after she was asleep, listening to her breathing, wondering how many more questions she'd have to carry before this ended. Then the knock came. Firm, repeated. When I opened the door, 2 uniformed officers stood on the porch. Their faces were professional, almost apologetic. Ma'am, we received an anonymous welfare call regarding your child. Do you mind if we speak with you? My daughter froze on the couch, wide-eyed. I steadied my voice. Of course, please, come in. They asked gentle, routine questions, checked the fridge, glanced around the living room where her art projects sprawled across the coffee table. She showed them her galaxy painting, explaining in her serious little voice how the pink comet meant hope. One officer smiled. Looks like you're doing just fine here. After they left, my daughter turned to me, nervous. Did we do something bad? I knelt, held her face in my hands. No, someone else made up a story, that's all. She blinked. Like a lie? Yes, but the truth always lasts longer. Her shoulders relaxed. Mine didn't. That night, I added the incident report to the folder, another line in the pattern, another reminder that Emma wasn't finished. But neither was I. The welfare check rattled me more than I admitted, even to my husband. It wasn't the officers. They were kind, professional, even gentle with my daughter. It was the fact that someone in my own family, flesh and blood, had dialed a number and tried to weaponize the system against us. That night, when the house settled into quiet, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the incident report in front of me. Each new document slid into the thick folder like a brick in a wall I wished I'd never had to build. The next morning, my parents called again. Clara, this can't keep going, my father said, his tone as flat as a ledger. You're tearing the family apart. No, I said evenly. I'm refusing to keep paying for everyone else's mess. He exhaled, sharp and impatient. The old arrangement worked. Your mother and we can't carry a tax lien at our age. You know what happens if... You should have thought of that before letting Emma lean on me like a bank account with no bottom. Silence. Then my mother's voice, softer, rehearsed. Sweetheart, we just want peace. Why don't you come over for dinner? Talk it through. We're family. I looked at my daughter curled on the rug, coloring in her sketchbook, finally at ease in her own skin. My chest tightened. No more dinners, I said. No more arrangements. Written communication only, and it goes through my lawyer. The line went dead. That evening, an email arrived from Aunt Sheila. No greeting, no commentary, just an audio file attached. I hesitated before pressing play. The recording crackled with laughter and clinking glasses. Then Emma's voice. Make it small. She'll come crawling back. She always does. My stomach lurched. Then my mother's voice. A little lesson won't kill her, kid. Maybe it'll finally shut Clara up. The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the edge of the counter until my knuckles whitened. My husband found me frozen there, the file still playing. He stopped it, pulled the laptop shut, and whispered, Now you know. The smear campaign might have continued, but Emma's real-life consequences were tightening like a vice. The landlord's official notice set the clock. 27 days until eviction if full payment wasn't made. A neighbor texted me that a tow truck had circled Emma's block twice, scanning license plates. At dinner, my husband leaned back in his chair, voice steady but firm. It's coming. She's going to lose the car. I nodded. I should have felt vindicated, but instead there was a hollow ache in my chest. That night, my daughter came to me with her school's family day invitation, the paper crinkled from being carried in her backpack. Mom, can you come? We get to show our art and eat cookies. I hesitated. My first thought was sabotage. What if Emma tried to slip another note into her bag or show up uninvited? But then I saw the hope in her eyes, the way her fingers tapped the galaxy doodle she'd drawn in the corner of the paper. Of course I'll come, I said. Nothing will stop me. Her smile widened. Later, after she was asleep, my husband and I sat on the porch. The air smelled faintly of cut grass and summer dust. What if they never stop? I whispered. He rested his hand over mine. Then we hold the line. For her, for us. The line. That was what this had become, a boundary that had to hold, even if it hurt. 2 days later, another letter arrived from my parents. This one wasn't handwritten. It was typed, clinical. If you reconsider, we can work something out. A repayment schedule, perhaps. Your father is willing to forgive the debt if you resume the old arrangement. Think of your daughter's future. Stability requires family support. I laughed bitterly. Family support? That phrase had always meant me bailing them out. I slid the letter under the framed sticky note and the blue ink apology. A collection now. Proof that none of it had been in my head. One night, as I tucked my daughter in, she asked, "Why don't we see Grandma and Grandpa anymore?" I smoothed her blanket. "Because they forgot how to be kind." Her brow furrowed. "Do you think they'll remember again?" The question pierced deeper than she knew. "Maybe," I said softly, "but even if they don't, we'll be okay." She seemed satisfied with that. I wished I could believe it as easily. The repo came at night. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the metallic clink of a chain outside, followed by the bark of a car alarm. My husband met my eyes in the mirror. We didn't look out the window. We didn't need to. The alarm wailed twice, then cut short. The silence afterward was louder than the sound had been. I spat, wiped my mouth, and whispered, "It's done." The next morning, my phone buzzed with another private number. I let it ring out. Instead, I focused on packing my daughter's lunch for school, tucking a note into her bag. "You are brave. You are loved." As she skipped toward the door with her galaxy headband, I realized that while Emma's world was shrinking, mine was finally expanding. The line was holding, and we were still standing. Morning light filtered through the blinds in fractured lines, falling across the kitchen table where the newest envelope sat unopened. Emma's handwriting on the front was jagged, hurried. I didn't rush to tear it open. I already knew what it would say. Demands disguised as apologies. Instead, I poured my daughter's cereal, listening to the clink of her spoon as she hummed a tune from music class. Ordinary sounds. Peaceful. When I finally unfolded the letter, the words confirmed what I'd expected. "This isn't fair. The eviction notice isn't my fault. You always make things harder than they have to be. Please help me, just until I get back on my feet. Don't punish my kids because of your grudge." The lines twisted tighter with each sentence. Buried between them was a request, but not once did the word sorry appear. Not once did she admit what she had done. I folded the letter neatly and slid it under the glass frame on the wall, where it joined the sticky note and my mother's blue ink apology. 3 artifacts, all variations of the same script. Emma's car disappeared 2 days later, repossessed in the night. Neighbors texted me pictures, half curious, half gossipy. A week after that, a notice came from the landlord confirming eviction proceedings had begun. The spiral was real now, tangible. My phone buzzed with another voicemail. Emma's voice cracked with something close to desperation. "Clara, please, just fix this. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't let them take everything." But even in her pleading, there was no ownership, no acknowledgement that this was the result of her choices. I sat on the porch that evening, the letter in my lap. My husband leaned against the railing, watching me. "You could give her one last chance," he said quietly, "but make the terms clear." I nodded slowly. "Therapy, written accountability, no more games with our daughter. And if she refuses, then she's choosing her spiral." He studied me for a long moment, then said, "You've learned how to stop catching her." A week later, family day arrived. I walked into the school cafeteria, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, rows of tables lined with paper plates of cookies and juice boxes. The room buzzed with laughter and chatter, parents bent over projects while kids beamed with pride. My daughter waved from the far corner, bouncing in her seat. "Mom, over here." I threaded through the crowd, ignoring the flicker of fear in my chest that Emma might appear. But she didn't. It was just us. She pulled me to her project, a painting that stretched across bright poster board, swirls of galaxies, constellations stitched with glitter glue, and soft pink comets streaking across the canvas. In the corner, in careful black paint, she had written, "Safe is better than big." My throat tightened. She beamed up at me. "Do you like it?" I crouched, kissed her forehead. "I love it, more than anything." Later, we sat together with cookies. Her feet swung under the table, her laughter brighter than I'd heard in months. On the drive home, she asked, "Mom, did we do the right thing? Even if everyone's mad?" I blinked hard against the lump in my throat. "Yes, sweetheart, we did the right thing." She smiled, leaned back in her seat, and whispered, "Good. I don't want my heart to buzz again." That night, after she was asleep, I sat at my computer and checked my email one last time. There it was. No subject line, just 6 words. "Are you happy now? You won." I stared at the screen for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type a single word. Because she was wrong. I hadn't won. There was no victory in this. No confetti, no triumph. What I had done was walk away. From a game rigged to keep me small. From a family system that thrived on my silence. From the lie that love had to mean sacrifice without end. I had walked away to give my daughter a different inheritance. Not money, not status, but peace. And it was loud as hell. Sometimes, late at night, I still wonder, should I have said more at the party? Should I have called them out instead of leaving in silence? Was the folder too much or not enough? I don't know. What I do know is this. My daughter goes to sleep without buzzing in her chest. She wakes up with friends who see her. She paints galaxies where safety glows brighter than size. And that is enough. But now I want to ask you, if it were your child, would you have done the same? Would you have walked away, fought back harder, or let it go? Tell me, what would you have done?